My name is Dennis Carroll. I'm a veteran freelance journalist based in Santa Fe, New Mexico. My friend here is Natalie Guillen, an amazing photojournalist. We have a story to tell. It's the story of a missing chapter in American history in the 20th century. But we need your help to make this story come alive.
Before Nagasaki and before Hiroshima, there were Tularosa, Carrizozo, and other south-central New Mexican towns. The people in these towns may well have been the first true victims of a surprise nuclear attack by the United States.
Most of us have heard of Robert Oppenheimer and Edward Teller and Enrico Fermi and some of the other scientists who were involved in the Manhattan Project, which of course created the atomic bomb in the 1940s. And we're all aware of the terrible, horrible sufferings of the citizens of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But it's not likely that you know the names of Danny Cordova, or Tress Van Winkle, or Lolly Adamson, and the sufferings that they've gone through, and their families, and hundreds or even thousands like them. And it's their story that we want to tell.
We were unwilling, unknowing, uncompensated participants in the world's largest science experiment. And so what's happened is you have that generation that were children at the time that were exposed. Genetically, they were altered. Their genetics were altered. They have passed on that genetic footprint to their children, which is my generation. My generation probably will pass it on to their children as well. And what's interesting is I started looking at all of this way before I ever had cancer or way before my dad ever had cancer, because I knew that there was something really bad going on in those communities as a result of the radiation exposure. I knew that.
More than 60 years after the detonation of the gadget, as the Trinity bomb was called, residents feel they've been abandoned. 3 generations of radiation-induced illnesses and deaths have left not a single family unscathed, and they continue to this day.
A recent study by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta seems to confirm and add credence to the concerns and the fears of the residents of the Tularosa Basin. According to the study, there were no warnings before the blast. No one was evacuated. And after the detonation, no one was warned not to drink the water that had filled with the radioactive fallout from above. No one was told not to eat the livestock or that they should not eat the crops that were now growing in irradiated soil. And what is also amazing is that 70 years later, no one, no health group, no government group, no one has ever returned to assess the environmental damage and the welfare of the thousands of citizens who live and lived in the 4 counties that surround the Trinity site. In fact, the government even denies that anyone's health was affected.
No real evidence has come back suggesting any harm from the test at all. Now, of course, there have been some claims over the years, but one of the issues that you have when dealing with stuff like this is, remember, this was the 1940s, so it's very, very hard to track as far as, like, did someone get cancer from exposure or did they get cancer from smoking 5 packs a day?
Meanwhile, whole families have been wiped out by rare cancers and other apparently radiation-related illnesses.
This is historic, but it's not history. The Trinity downwinders were present at an event that changed the world, and yet they and their descendants feel as though they were expendable to the US government, like they were dismissed and they're being ignored.
With your help, we can write that untold and sometimes dark chapter of American history and of the nuclear age, and maybe even get some help for those who have suffered so long and in such silence. Thank you for your support.